how to enjoy video games or gaming in general again. So there's a whole demographic, a generation who feels like they're aging out of video games. They're having trouble in this new meta and this new world of gaming. Like, how do you enjoy it? And really the question is, how can gaming feel the same now as it did when I was younger, when I was playing Sega or N64 or Game Boy or my first PlayStation 2 or whatever. And I think there's a simple answer to this. So in this video, we'll be reacting to how to enjoy games again and what I think the current landscape of gaming looks like for that older generation.
Your Cheeto dust stained gaming chair at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, bored out of your goddamn mind, looking on the Steam store page, desperate to find anything that might entertain you. You see a game with overwhelmingly positive reviews on sale, so you know you gotta snatch it. You buy it, then you boot it up and start playing. Your boredom quickly subsides, but only for 5 minutes. Then it comes back at you at full force, stronger than it ever was. You quickly alt F4 out of the game, then you say to yourself, I'm not really feeling it today. Maybe tomorrow. And with that, you proceed to never play the game again, just letting it sit in your library to collect dust for an indefinite period of time. We've all been there, let's be real, but the question is, how do...
Yeah, that part's tough. Like, that part is tough as far as like getting a game, playing it once, and then not playing it again or whatever, not completing a game, not finishing a game. As you get older, and I think as like, you know, real life stuff happens and work happens and other priorities happen, you know, when you're younger, there's really nothing going on. You kind of get home from school, do your schoolwork maybe, then you game, play video games by yourself in your room for 4 or 5 hours a night, certainly for 10 hours plus on the weekends. And so it's really easy to complete a game. I mean, even in college, like I remember in college, I'd start playing, like Mass Effect was a game I loved in college, Mass Effect 1 and 2. And I would skip class just to play Mass Effect. I would play Mass Effect from, you know, I'd start playing at 10 p.m. and I'd play till 3 a.m. and sleep till noon and think nothing of it. A little different now, you know, and not to mention now, a lot of the times, like I play a lot of games, obviously. And sometimes, like World of Warcraft is a game I love. I love playing WoW. I've played WoW since Wrath of the Lich King. There's sometimes I come home, I've been working all day, you know, maybe have like stressful projects or something at work. Your brain is firing. Then you come home, you cook dinner, eat dinner, clean that up. Then you know you have like an hour and a half to go until you're going to go to sleep. So sometimes the last thing you want to do is run like hardcore Mythic Plus dungeons and sweat out a timer and sweat out, you know, routes and possibly fail at a dungeon or something. Like, you want to kind of just kick back, relax. Maybe that's an episode of something on Netflix, or maybe that's a couple matches of Fortnite that really don't have that much, you know, stress involved. Like, it's just different. You have such a small amount of time. It's hard to play a 75-hour campaign in Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, it's hard to play Cyberpunk 2077 when you can play once every 10 days. You know, it's different. It's very different. So that part, I wouldn't put too much concern into that. If you're playing a game and you enjoy it for one night and you don't play it again for 2 weeks, it just is what it is. It's harder to fit games in the older you get. That's why I think older generation of players, they tend to play like, you know, Call of Duty, where you hop into ranked, you know, a multiplayer game. It's just an easy like 30-minute thing. Like Overwatch, like it's easy in Overwatch to hop in, you know, play a couple games, hop out. It's all the same. There's no grind. There's no campaign. There's no catch-ups or anything like that. It's just Fortnite, great example. You jump in Fortnite, play 2-3 matches, you know, have some fun, just kind of blow off some steam, not a big deal. And then you can not touch it for 2 more weeks, hop in, it's the same game.
How did we get there? A decade ago, we enjoyed all our games, even though they had worse graphics and sometimes super wacky controls. But regardless, we still had the time of our lives. How did we go from being able to play our older consoles for hours and hours without even a hint of boredom, to today where we barely have the drive to play a new game for more than a couple of minutes? Are games getting worse, or are we just getting too old for video games? And how do we enjoy games again?
I don't think it's either, by the way. I don't think games are definitely not getting worse. Games are getting much better. And I don't think you're aging yourself out either. I mean, it's just different. It's just naturally different, but I wouldn't say either of those options are correct.
Well, lucky for you, I have a couple answers to these questions. You see, I too have gone through a period of my life where playing video games was less entertaining than watching paint dry. And I want to share the methods that helped me find fulfillment in even the least stimulating of games. Yeah. So let's get into it. But first, why does this happen? Why is it that games were so much more fun when we were children, but now, not so much? Well, there could be any number of reasons, that vary depending on the person. Could be because video games were novel when we were younger. Now
I don't think this is like this isn't true at all. I mean, it's the same thing with like action figures. Like if you think about like if you try to play with action figures right now, like if you just had a couple of wrestling action figures or Dragon Ball Z action figures or whatever, and it's like, all right, play with these. Like as a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever, it's not going to be the same. As a 7-year-old, yeah, it's awesome. You are different. Like the way that what you consider fun, how your brain is, your maturity level, all of that is just totally different. You know, it's the same as food. You know, dinosaur chicken nuggets were the greatest thing in the world when you're 6 years old. Dinosaur chicken nuggets right now probably aren't that awesome. A kid cuisine, a Hot Pocket, all that kind of, pizza rolls at 7 years old, best thing in the universe. Right now, I'm not sure. I don't know if 10 kids' cuisines would fill me up. I don't know if I would enjoy a kid's cuisine. You know, so it's like the question shouldn't be, well, is food, why aren't we enjoying kids' cuisine like we used to? Are we just phasing ourselves out, or, is food not as good as it used to be? It's like, no, it's just different. It's changed. You've changed as a consumer.
Now that we've had these luxuries for so long, we take them for granted. It could also be that your friend group used to play video games together, and after years and years of adulting, your friends slowly drifted apart, causing you to be all alone with little desire to play games.
This part right here is a good point, because a lot of people, they combine nostalgia with the gaming industry. So they'll, it's like, why am I not enjoying games anymore? I used to sit around all night long with my best friends on a Friday night, not a care in the world. We stay up all night laughing and having fun and playing games. And it's like, when you really hear that, you realize the last thing you're actually talking about is the game. You're talking about camaraderie. You're talking about not having a care in the world. You're talking about all your friends. You're talking about this community. You're talking about laughing and having fun. The game is just a backdrop. Like the game doesn't matter at all. At that point, the game could be anything, right? That's a very different atmosphere than you sitting there by yourself playing a game. Like if you're trying to get the same feeling sitting there by yourself playing Cyberpunk 2077 as you are when you used to play GoldenEye or Halo with 10 of your best friends at a sleepover, that's not going to happen. But the issue isn't gaming. The issue is you're trying to replicate basically, that freedom of a sleepover with your best friends.
Or it could just be that you're working too much, and gaming doesn't really fit into your tight schedule of working and napping and working and napping and working and napping. It can be pretty much anything, but the most prevailing one that I hear is that video games are getting worse. This opinion is common with millennials and doomers, both of which usually don't even play video games. While it's true that the games of today are nothing like the games of the 1980s or 1990s or even the 2000s, for better or for worse, that doesn't mean that all the games after a certain time period are just garbage. Right?
You take Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 4 is better than Grand Theft Auto 3, or Grand Theft Auto 1. Like the games now are just getting better and bigger and more advanced, and old games are just buggy and just total messes. Like I just recently heard someone saying that Wave Race is like one of the greatest games ever. If Wave Race came out, Wave Race had 4 maps, 3 characters you could ride on. You couldn't even tell them apart, really, just their body shape. They had like 2 songs on there, one mode. There was really nothing to do. Total max game time would probably be like an hour. How do you think that would hold up now? Like people would play it for 30 minutes and that'd be it. But back then, it's like the game is what the game is. GoldenEye, same thing. There was probably bugs and there wasn't a meta. There wasn't anything like that to really showcase those bugs. But now people would pick those games apart. So the idea that games were better back then, absolutely not. They're just so much better now. It's crazy to think about like playing, Ocarina of Time. You're playing a game like that. Back then, Ocarina of Time, you're looking at the graphics like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. These graphics are the greatest thing I have ever seen. I cannot believe how real this grass looks. This grass looks incredible. And then you load it up and look at it today, and you're like, is that grass? It's just the color green. That's not even like I can't even tell what the texture is. It's not grass.
Well, at least not all of them, okay? There are a lot of new games that happen to be garbage, but there are also a lot of old games that are just straight garbage. But people...
Yeah, there are some old games that are absolutely, I mean, like, some of the worst, most unplayable pieces of trash of all time. Me and a friend used to go to GameStop, and we used to purposely go to, like, the bin, like the $5 bin. And we each had to pick... Now, you talk about, like, exactly what this video is really highlighting. This was a really fun thing we used to do, and the game didn't matter at all. It was the friendship and the camaraderie and the fun and the goofs and the gaffs. We used to go at like 10 a.m. to GameStop, go to the $5 bin, and then we each had to pick a game under a certain dollar amount, so let's just say $5, and then we would have to go home, and it would be like a LAN party setup, and then we would have our 2 TVs, and we'd both start our games, and we'd try and beat the game in one sitting. No matter how bad the game was, no matter how awful it was, and that would be it. And we would do that all the time. And some of the games were, I mean, you're talking about like Burger King, Sneak King level games. Just complete garbage. No storyline, buggy, broken messes of games. But it was fun because of how the goofs and the gaffs. If you take that same situation, and I go to GameStop right now, I'd have to Google where a GameStop even is, if they're even open anymore. If I went to the bin and found some awful $4 game, came home and tried to play it on a random Tuesday night, I would be like, well, I just wasted the 1 hour of downtime that I have tonight. I get home, I do all this stuff, I have to do the... I wasted the 1 hour, the 2 hours that I have to do something. I wasted it playing this awful game. Same game, but those are... It's the context around it that changes your perception of how good or bad a game is.
Praise and defend them with impunity solely because of nostalgia. Everyone feels nostalgic about one thing or another. For some, it's shitty video games. For others, it's food we grew up eating. For me, it's gotta be the...
Boom! Am I on another level or am I on another level? This young man making this video is 100% correct. You cannot switch the nostalgia for the moment or the time or the era. You can't connect that directly with video games or food because it's not the actual food. You're not nostalgic for those Bug Safari chicken nuggets. You're nostalgic for being 7 years old and watching cartoons on a Saturday and having not a care in the world and just being a kid. You know, you're not nostalgic for, or you're not craving, you know, the first Halo. You're craving the LAN parties and the fun with friends and that whole era. You know, so when people try and use video games or books even, or movies or TV shows, they try and use that medium as like it's going to give you that same feeling. It's a fruitless chase.
Razor scooter. Even though it decimated my shins as an 8-year-old, there's still a special place in my heart for it. It's okay to be nostalgic towards something, whether that be something that sucks or something that's awesome. Just try not to be so blinded by nostalgia that you don't give any new games a fair shot. Because you don't feel the same way that you did playing Ocarina of Time 20 years ago in your family room.
God bless! Because me and this guy, we're on the same level. Ocarina of Time, Kid Cuisine. I mean, well said.
Because I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're just never going to relive that experience.
Yeah.
Unless you were to play older games. Because you should play older games now! If you're one of those people who constantly complain on the internet about how modern games suck and how they'll never live up to your personal nostalgia golden age, then I have a prescription for you. Just play old school games. I personally love replaying games that I played during...
Yeah, it actually is fun. I mean, replaying, and that is another great thing about today's kind of day and age with technology, is that it used to be so hard to play an older game. You used to have the console, you know, had the working game. A lot of the TVs didn't have the same adapters, but now all these digital libraries, you can go play those old games, and they are fun to play. And they're really short. You know, most games you can play and beat in a couple hours, and that is a fun thing to do. If you're not, you know, if there's no new games you want to play, yeah, spending 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday beating GoldenEye, that can be really fun.
During my childhood, like Ratchet and Clank, Ocarina of Time, Pokemon Red, everything, man. You can also play gems that you've never played before. If you're zooming like me, you probably miss out on a lot of classics that you would have loved if you played it when you were younger.
Yeah.
If you're finding no joy in modern games, then just boot up an emulator and play some classics. Legally, of course, because I would never encourage you to ever
guys, come
pirate
on.
a game.
All legal.
Like, seriously, I hate those degenerates that just go on the pirate Reddit mega thread list. They use one of these safe and detailed guides on how to download free emulators and ROMs. Like,
don't do that.
It's just so messed up because it costs hardworking and in-touch companies like Nintendo to lose gajillions of dollars. So make sure you don't go on this mega thread and download thousands of ancient games.
Do not go to this mega thread
for free. That'd be super fucked up. So in essence, if you're disappointed in modern games, you should just play the large selection of older games. That should help reignite your love for video. If you find yourself still bored while playing old games, it's clear that the age of the game isn't the problem. The real problem is your habits and discipline. You might be thinking, discipline? I'm playing video games. It shouldn't require any discipline to do. Well, that might have been the case for you 8 years ago. In the current era, there are so many things that are feeding for your attention. These things are usually a million times more stimulating than playing a little old story game. Whether that be social media or short-form content like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, or maybe even Twitch streamers whom you have a routine of watching every single day. All of these things require much less discipline than playing a single-player game. But despite that, finishing a game is far more fulfilling than scrolling through TikTok for a couple of hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see this in a lot of mediums, like the same thing with movies, where it's so hard to watch a movie nowadays, but are movies getting worse? No, it's just the fact that watching a movie I was just having this conversation where routinely, to go to bed when I was in high school, I had a TV in my room. I would turn the TV on. I'd put it on TNT or TBS or whatever, and I would watch whatever movie was on. And that was it. I'd catch the last hour and a half of Waterworld or Indiana Jones or Terminator 2 or whatever movie. Didn't matter. I'd watch it, and that was it. I'd just go to sleep. But now, you can watch TV shows. You can watch YouTube Shorts. You can watch streams. You can watch my YouTube channel. You can watch... you don't even have to watch anything. You can scroll Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or play a mobile game or play a video game or read on a physical book or on a Kindle. I mean, you can listen to an audio tape, listen to a podcast. There are so many things you can do. It's very difficult to play a video game, a campaign game, where it's going to take you 4 or 5 hours to even really get going, to even really understand what's happening. And in the way that we consume things now, it is difficult for a lot of people to set aside a considerable amount of time to just kind of get ramped up. I think that's why people struggle with movies, is that it takes an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours before you even really figure out what's going on. They'd much rather a 30-minute documentary or an hour documentary. By the 20-minute mark, they're pretty locked into what's happening. So this part is much more of how people consume media.
Or mindlessly watching a Twitch streamer. After finishing a good game, you feel happy, satisfied, euphoric even, and sometimes you let out some tears if the story was sad enough. Or you're letting out some tears if you just finished Redfall, and you're just now realizing that you can't refund this piece of garbage. Whatever the case, there's nothing like finishing a good game. But compare this to watching TikTok, where you get a huge boost of stimulation in the beginning that slowly wanes over time. Anyways, the thing that worked best for me was slowly weaning off my bad habits for weeks until they were nothing. But before I teach you this method, I want to tell you that moderation is key. Even though short-form content can corrode your attention span, at the end of the day, almost anything is fine in moderation, and it's up to you to determine what has a negative impact on your life. For me personally, I see video games as a perfectly fine and healthy form of recreation, at least for most video games. But for some, they may think video is a complete waste of time. On the other hand, short-form content and social media serves as visual junk food for me. But for you, it might be the complete opposite. And also, not all these things are equally bad. Having a Twitch streamer on your second monitor while you play a repetitive game isn't awful. But
yeah, I don't think any of this is bad. I mean, I think, people try and demonize all this stuff so much. Just like, I hate it's not like the hustle mindset, or it's not that, but, like, the whole idea of you have to be doing things productive with your time and it's not mental junk food. Like, I can guarantee you, when I was watching Celebrity Deathmatch in 1998, that was mental junk food. When I was watching The Man Show, that is mental junk food. I'm not learning anything. I'm not stimulating my brain. I'm just straight up watching some garbage. It's just, you don't have to, we can't all be on these super linear, like Jocko Willink, David Goggins, hustle, grind, Gary V type things all the time. In life, sometimes it's good to just go have some fun. It's good to just go have a cold beer, eat a hamburger. Just like when you're consuming media like this, sometimes it's okay to watch a bad movie. Sometimes it's okay to read a just whimsical book. Sometimes it's okay to play a video game or to watch TikTok or to play whatever Diablo 3, because not Diablo 4. But sometimes it's okay to play Diablo 3, just go slaying some demons while you have Dr. Disrespect on your side, your second monitor, and you're just kind of killing some time. It doesn't have to be this bigger picture. That's anytime gaming gets into that sphere, I think then it's easy for it to become a negative thing.
But doing the same thing with a story game that requires your full attention to enjoy might ruin the experience. You decide what recreational activity is worth your while. Now that that's out of the way, this is how you can eliminate negative habits. First, you go through your day like normal, doing whatever you do on a daily basis, regardless of how bad it is. Log down your daily routine on a piece of paper or in the notes on your phone. Write down the habits that you deem as distracting or draining of your attention span. Then anytime you participate in these habits, start a stopwatch. You can use
I wouldn't do any of this. I wouldn't worry about this. I mean, I would just live your life, try and be happy. You'll figure out like what things bring you happiness. You'll figure out if you're being productive. And if you're being productive and you're happy, then I don't think you need to monitor your daily, what you do every second, every minute of your day. I think you can just it's the same thing with food. It's like, if you're healthy and if you're eating enough and you're satiated, okay. If you're eating too much and you're starting to become unhealthy and you don't feel good, and then start to try and figure out, okay, where can I cut back? But if everything is good on like a higher level, as far as the highest level of, am I healthy? Am I productive? Am I serving some good here? Then that's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. When I had my first job, I was a breaking news reporter for a newspaper, and my routine at nighttime, I would go to bed and I would lay there for like an hour and wind down. I would watch, at that time, I would watch FIFA YouTube videos. And I'd spend like the last hour just watching like the latest KSI video or Spencer FC video or whoever. Is that productive? No. Is that a great habit? No. It's probably, would it have been better if I read Marcus Aurelius? If I read his philosophy, if I read Socrates or Plato for the last hour before I went to sleep, would that be better than watching, Rodashaw do, FIFA pack openings? Yeah, probably. But at the time, just how it worked out, So putting this undue stress on yourself, I think that's when you can get overworked and overpressured into making sure that every second of every day fits into this like highly productive and highly positive routine.
Use your phone for this too. Once you're done with the habit, you write down the time of the session on the piece of paper and you add it up as you go. At the end of the day, you should have all your habits timed out, and this will give you a really good baseline of all the habits you need to improve. Let's say your day looks like this: 8 hours of working, 4 hours of watching TikTok, 2 hours of social media, and 1 hour of crying in the shower thinking about her. For the next couple of weeks or months, slowly replace these things with gaming or another recreational thing that you want to do more of, like hiking, hunting, whatever you do. The next day you might reduce all your habits by, let's say, 5 minutes or however long you feel comfortable with. And during the meantime, you make yourself play video games to fill the gap. This is a very slow but effective method of replacing your habits.
Well, it's something else about, just kind of get off the gaming subject, but I don't think you have to do things every day either. I always hear someone say like, I want to start reading. I'm going to read one for 1 hour every single night. And it's like, well, it's okay if you don't, it's okay if you don't one night. Like, I love the NFL. I love watching the NFL. I don't watch the NFL every day. I watch the NFL when it's on. I watch it during the season. But you don't have to watch it every day. You don't have to read every day. You don't have to play. If you want to play video games, you don't have to segment out 2 hours to play video games every single day. If you want to play the game, play the game. That's part of that nostalgic feeling you want to feel. The nostalgic feeling of when you're a kid playing games, that you're doing what you want to do because you want to do it. You're not segmenting out. I want 2 hours to play with my action figures. Then I want 4 hours to play Wave Race 64, and then I want 1 hour to eat my kid cuisine, and then I want 2 hours to go outside and play dirt, eat some dirt. You're just kind of doing what you want to do because you're living free. So I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying just totally live like a kid, but segmenting out every single thing you're going to do every single day, that can be it can really box you in. And that, I think a lot of gaming does that nowadays, where it's that daily grind, where some games like World of Warcraft's kind of like this, where if you don't play every day, you kind of do fall behind. Games aren't meant to be played every single day forever. Like if you think about Super Mario 64, like back in the day, yeah, it was awesome. I didn't have to get on and do dailies. I could go a couple days without playing it. It was still awesome. I didn't have to get on every single day to collect a certain kind of rep or a certain kind of reward. A lot of times with WoW or games like that, League of Legends, or some of those games where that is kind of the culture it wants to create, where it's like, hey man, I noticed you didn't play WoW for 3 straight days. You just don't like the game anymore. You're falling behind. It's like, man, I went on vacation. I couldn't play. I mean, when I used to play FIFA really, really competitively. Like I used to play every single day. I used to do every type of reward or whatever. And you used to have to play 30 games a weekend to keep up with everybody else. I remember Christmas fell on a Saturday when I was playing this game. It's FIFA 17. And it was either a Saturday or a Sunday. I had to get my games in. So I set an alarm on Christmas morning, and I woke up at like 5 a.m. just to get like 10 or 11 games in before I went to my family's Christmas. That's crazy. That is not how gaming should be. That is absolutely not how any kind of a fun hobby should be, to where you're doing a chore and it's so strict that you can't even enjoy a Christmas holiday. You have to schedule out, when am I going to grind these 10 games? When am I going to segment out these 3 or 4 hours to make sure that I get my rep?
It might be hard at first and annoying to constantly log your hours, but it'll most definitely pay off in the long run. Trust me, if you do this every day and keep logging your hours, in a couple of weeks or months your habits will be where you want them to be. But make sure you don't try to rush the process. You might be tempted to just say screw it and try to quit these addictive habits cold turkey. People often think that big change happens in a day. People watch these videos with a motivational speaker yelling in your ear about grinding and hustling. They tell you to just lose weight. They tell you to just quit. Well, a big burly guy in the background is chopping wood and you think, yeah, I can change. I can be different. Then for one day, you go to the gym. You go for a run and you eat healthy. Then that day ends and you immediately fall right back into your bad habits. And sometimes your habits get worse. By making you binge on all the things you neglected throughout the day. Huge change doesn't happen in a day. Huge change takes many days of consistently doing slightly better until your habits compound to where you want them to be.
Miscellaneous tips.
If you have problems staying off certain websites, use a website blocker. You can usually find these in the extension store of your browser. This one even has a setting where you can redirect the blocked link to a custom URL of your choice. So instead of wasting my time on Twitter, I get redirected to this motivational video instead. Another tip is to watch Vods instead of live streams. Streamers often have sporadic schedules that create a feeling of urgency when they go live, giving you the fear of missing out. If you just watch the Vods, it's easy to fit the streams into your own schedule, and it gives you the power to watch it anytime you want. The last tip is to delete apps that are distracting. If you want to go on TikTok, for example, you'd have to re-download and sign into the app. This is a pain in the ass which can deter you from going on TikTok. So, when it comes to enjoying games again,
I think there are some things that are wholly negative. Like, pornographic websites or something. Those are wholly negative. Like playing a video game is not. There's some positives to that. If you are doing something wholly negative and it's taking up a big chunk of your day, and you do want to stop that, yeah, I would definitely do some of this stuff. I would definitely block those websites. I would definitely delete those apps. Like if Reddit is a gateway to you subscribing to OnlyFans, and you want to stop that because you're financially being crushed, then yeah, delete Reddit to then delete the gateway, so that then it's harder for you to do that. That part for sure. And man, I mean, this is really taking a turn away from gaming. This end here, this is more of just like a life thing. But it's funny. It shows you the current landscape of gaming, where we're talking about enjoying video games. And it's gotten to the point where it's so serious now. We're talking about scheduling and lifestyle changes and habits and discipline. And that is the complete opposite of enjoying video games. At the end of the day, we're talking about like a couple hours of World of Warcraft. We're talking about being a drainy paladin. We're talking about being playing Call of Duty, or playing some Fallout, or playing some Halo or Cyberpunk or whatever. It's not that serious. And I think that's where it's gotten bad, is that it has become that serious. You know, every game is that serious. Every game is like, are you playing this 10 years ago? Well, maybe not. About 5 years ago. 5 years ago, when the streamer meta was at its absolute highest, if you got a game, you got that game to do one of two things: play it professionally or play it at the highest possible level of the game. Even if you weren't a pro, you were going to play at the absolute 1%. Or you got it to stream it, or to be a content creator, or to make YouTube videos about it, or to basically play it full time, to basically play it 8 hours a day, create content about it, basically dedicate your life to being an analyst of this game. That's what every game was. And when the game came out, it was like, okay, PUBG's coming out? Cool. I'm a PUBG streamer now. I'm going to play PUBG for 6 hours a night live on camera. Cool. I'm a PUBG YouTuber now. I'm going to play PUBG nonstop. Then I'm going to edit videos and publish it. And I'm going to update, people on the news about the game, whatever. Overwatch is coming out. Sweet. Good news. Now I'm going to try and be a 1%. I'm a 2,500 level Overwatch player. I'm going to study the meta. I'm going to play every single night. I'm going to try and be the best player I can be, whatever. There wasn't a Super Mario 64. There wasn't a Mario Golf. There wasn't a Wave Race. There wasn't a Diddy Kong, 64, or Donkey Kong 64. There wasn't a game where you just played to play. There wasn't a game you just got on there, collected a couple bananas. There was no meta. There was no online multiplayer. There was no YouTube or stream. It was just, I'm playing, Ocarina of Time because I want to play the game and I enjoy the story. That was it. So that meta has really created this very serious world around gaming where, the games that I play a lot of, I see it a lot, like Overwatch and World of Warcraft, and, where I see how serious the game is, where like World of Warcraft, you have to download all these add-ons, you have to understand the add-ons, you have to understand like 20 different currency systems and token upgrades, and you have to understand all this gear upgrading, understand all the dailies and rep grinds, and then you have to understand these very particular Mythic Plus routes in order to beat this very stringent timer. And if you're not up to date on all of that, you're ruining the game, because then you're not completing it. You're not, there is no just like exploration. There is no just adventure with games anymore. Just like I said with Mass Effect, I loved Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I played the hell out of those games. But I wasn't a Mass Effect streamer. I wasn't a Mass Effect YouTuber. I didn't play it 8, 9, 10 hours. FIFA is a great example too, where I hear FIFA streamers all the time where they're like, man, we've ran out of content. Where's all the content? And it's like, brother, you're playing 10 hours a day. Like, I don't think the game was made to have enough content to where you can play for 10 hours a day and always have fresh content. Again, if you played Wave Race 10 hours a day, you would run out of content pretty quick. Power World, people started running out of content, and the developer said, hey, that's not really what this game is. This game isn't a update every single day live content kind of game. This is a, we are ready for 15 hours of content or whatever. After that, there's not much for you until the next patch. So this new lifestyle of, games basically being work, that's very negative for the gaming space. It's very negative for enjoying games. It's impossible. Call of Duty is a good example too, where if you think back to the nostalgic Call of Duties, those metas were unbalanced. It was not perfectly balanced. There wasn't content every single day. You played, you grinded it. Some weapons or loadouts were OP and you knew it, and it just was what it was. But that's it. But now, because it's so serious, now it's like everything has to be perfectly balanced. Everything has to be content heavy and updated immediately, and everything, is on this bigger microscope. And that does ruin games, because that creates a meta. And then if you're not playing the meta, you're not playing the game at the highest level. If you're not playing the game at the highest level, you can't be a streamer or a YouTuber or whatever. And it's just a very negative backdrop for gaming, which is supposed to be a complete release. Gaming is supposed to be just kind of a distraction for the stresses of real life. It's not supposed to be taken that seriously. I mean, nothing is supposed to be that serious. Some things are just meant to be enjoyed. And I think that is kind of it is a weird world now where anytime someone does something, I think the first thought is, how can I create content around this? If they like watching Game of Thrones, it's like, well, do I become a Game of Thrones YouTuber? If they're watching Gilmore Girls, it's like, do I start a Gilmore Girls rewatch podcast? You know, like, oh man, Pal World came out. I'm now making Pal World YouTube videos. Like that is the first thought for a large majority. Large majority are one of those two first thoughts is I'm going to play this game to the upper 1%, or I'm going to be a content creator around it. One of the first thoughts is not, I'm just going to enjoy this game.
Sometimes it's as simple as playing games that you loved during your childhood. Most often, though, it's your addiction to extremely stimulating content that forces you out of doing the things that you love. It's up to you to replace these habits and work harder to live a more fulfilling life. It may seem difficult at first, but it's definitely possible. Consistency and small changes are the most important elements in this. So yeah, make sure to stay safe out there.
I would say the last thing that he didn't mention that is very corrosive to gaming nowadays too is the gambling aspect, the microtransactions, the carrot on the stick. FIFA is a good example where the developers created this circle where the more you played, the more rewards you got. The more rewards you got, the better your team was. Theoretically, you had a better chance of opening better players in packs. But really, it's just gambling. So they're pushing you along the same dopamine track as you would if you were playing a slot machine. You know, and battle passes are the same thing, right? Battle passes are, the more you play the game, the more you will go across this battle pass where you will get more rewards. So people then are pushing themselves to complete the daily task and the chores and the quests and all that to increase their battle pass or increase their rewards. And then if you're doing it that way, you're just working, right? But the battle pass is your salary. The FIFA packs are your pay. So what was once I'm spending some time playing the game is now I'm working. I'm just doing my chores. I'm doing my daily duty to get my monies. And in this case, your monies are skins, or gear, or rep, you know, or XP or whatever it is. So even the way games are created, they're created with that now. GoldenEye wasn't created with that. The more GoldenEye multiplayer you played, you didn't get new skins. You didn't unlock new maps. You didn't unlock new, gun wraps or whatever. You just played because you wanted to play. There was no outside force. Now, that's not the case. In almost every game, there's an outside force dictating why you play or how much you play or when you play. And if you're dictated of how much you play, when you play, and the level you play, if you're dictating those things, yeah, it makes sense where gaming wouldn't be very fun anymore. Someone is telling you when, how, and what to play. That doesn't sound fun, does it? Good conversation here. Good video. Good stuff. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. We covered a wide variety of topics there. But thank you very much for watching. If you watched to the end, you are an absolute hero. Let me know in the comments below. If you did make it to the end, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.